From CGTN headquarters in Beijing, this is The Hub with Wang Guan.
Hello and welcome to Global South and AI, bridging the digital divide and creating an inclusive future. This special edition of The Hub on CGTN. I'm Wang Guan in Beijing. Back in 2016, Klaus Schwab, founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum, first introduced the concept of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, also known as Industrial 4.0. The emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, and robotics merge with the physical world, the digital world, and the biological world. Now, 8 years on, we're already living in it. With AI standing as a beacon with transformative potential, what opportunities and challenges does the Global South encounter? And what's urgently needed to bridge the digital divide between the Global North and the Global South for a more inclusive future? Now, regarding Global South and AI, here are some insights from AI practitioners and pioneers. Let's take a listen.
A technological explosion happening with the AI technology, which is now extending its capability to language modeling, and that gives us a complete new opportunity.
There is no prosperous company in a non-prosperous country, and there is not one prosperous country without prosperous companies. And together we bring technology.
I was very interested by the speech of President Xi Jinping in the Belt and Road Forum. And he said that China and BRICS and so on want to have 8 priorities, such artificial intelligence for ecological transition and so on. 8 priorities. But for each priority, he said we have to build a world regulation. And I think that for our cooperation, the priority right now is to work together for the regulation. Because artificial intelligence, it's a very fantastic progress.
When President Xi met with President Biden, to reaching an agreement kind of on how AI is used in military application. Right after that, we saw a path to San Francisco. You know, I want a cooperative relationship that helps the peoples of both countries. And we're not there, but we're at least off of the bottom where we were.
The AI community in China and the United States is about as intertwined as it possibly could be. There are areas it's going to require collaboration at the multilateral level, and we've seen some of that. The UN just issued a recent resolution. Also at the bilateral level, we have the US and China have a working group on AI.
The problem we face of low productivity and weak growth needs a solution, and artificial intelligence can be a big part of this solution. It can increase productivity tremendously.
I think AI will be a fantastic complement with a strong 5G network or strong connected society. Putting AI on top will give immense possibilities for creating much more optimized flows, much more optimized work positions.
It's a great time in terms of technology. It's artificial intelligence, but the way we do things will completely be transformed in the next 3 years. So a huge opportunity, but a significant transformation.
To discuss these and beyond, I'm joined in Islamabad, Pakistan by Mohammed Sadiq, Central Program Brand Manager at National Center of Artificial Intelligence. In Berlin, Germany, we have Thorsten Jelinek, Europe Director and Senior Fellow at Taihe Institute. In Johannesburg, South Africa, we have Arthur Gostock, Founder and CEO of Worldwide Works. Last but certainly not least, we have Brian Tse in Shanghai, China, Founder and CEO at Concordia AI and Policy Affiliate at the Center for the Governance of AI Future of Humanity Institute, of Oxford University. Welcome, gentlemen. Let me go to you first, Thorsten, in Berlin, Germany. You've been very invested in the research and studies of AI global governance. Can you first of all tell us about the main features of this Industrial 4.0 and its fundamental difference from previous industrial revolutions?
Well, thank you. First of all, it's great to be on your show. And I think that's the most fundamental basic questions, and to put AI into context. The fourth industrial revolution, or the Industry 4.0, has emerged, I would say, the beginning of the 2010 with advancements in the industry. And so we saw smart manufacturing emerging roughly for the last 10 years. That was the focus. And now this is moving into what is called Manufacturing X. So we're going from automation to autonomy. And this whole transition to put into global historical perspective, where first physical labor has been replaced, then mechanical automation emerged. Then we had the information revolution, where we had a digital representation of what is going on in the industry. And now we're moving into this Manufacturing X, basically an all AI environment in the industry.
Arthur, in Johannesburg, South Africa, back in 1950, the concept that machines could use available information to outsmart mankind is inconceivable. But now you have things like AlphaGo beating the arguably most outstanding chess player of the world that really wowed the audience from around the world and scientists alike. How would you summarize the potency, the main features of AI for this day and age for socioeconomic development?
The dramatic change that we've seen in the past 2 years has really been 75 years in the making, since Alan Turing wrote his paper on computing intelligence. But what had happened for the first, let's say, this first 70 to 72 years is that a tremendous amount of research and thinking and innovation was going in to making AI a reality. What happened in the last 2 years is that it suddenly became available to the public in dramatic ways, and everyone suddenly became aware of how powerful it was and how much it could change society. But we've seen that building up over decades, and businesses have been using it exceptionally effectively to automate decision making to some extent, but certainly to be able to pull together information from so many different sources that they could make it seem that their systems were thinking for them. That was the real dramatic change. The idea that machines not were thinking as such, but could appear to be thinking. And now for the ordinary public, that has suddenly become a reality. And that's why there is so much excitement and frenzy around AI, because now everyone can see that power.
Mohammed, let me turn to you. What do you think the current round of AI scientific research and its applications mean to countries like Pakistan? What does it mean to the global south?
In Pakistan, we are actually definitely doing a lot when it comes to the AI. It all started from the vision of the Minister of the Planning Commission, Mr. Ehsan Iqbal, who actually came up with the idea of establishing 4 national centers in Pakistan, focusing on AI, big data, cloud computing, and robotics. So the AI is actually based on consortium model, working initially. They started working on the R&D, but we are not just focusing on the R&D, but we are trying to collaborate with the global south countries as well in the realm of commercialization of the digital exports when it comes to the AI. We also have developed AI products in Pakistan, indigenous product development, and we have revamped the whole cities and the health sector in Pakistan, and also the surveillance and security systems of the cities. The major cities of Pakistan is being run by the National Center of AI.
Brian, let me turn to you. How would you characterize the impact of AI as a Chinese entrepreneur and a Chinese researcher?
First of all, thank you for the invitation. I believe 2024 is a pivotal year for advancing the international governance of AI, and both China and Global South have a critical role to play. So there is no doubt that Chinese AI development is shaping the global innovative applications as well as the industry. But please allow me to focus on is potential contribution to global AI governance. So there are several ideas. One is on domestic AI governance. China has moved faster than any other jurisdiction in regulating recommendation algorithms, and deepfakes, and finally generative AI. As countries seek to develop their own domestic governance frameworks in the coming months and years, it will be important for different countries to share regulatory insights with one another. Another feature is that China can help empower the voices of countries and communities in Global South. For example, there is a Chinese National Puncturing Lab, which is constructing a diverse corpus dataset covering, of course, Chinese, English, but also over 50 languages from regions along the Belt and Road Initiative. Finally, in terms of technical AI safety and governance, there has been a whole range of work in the AI community in China, including AI safety evaluations as well as cross-cultural alignment methods. So it will be important for researchers and industry to work with the Global South community to not only support AI development, but also to support AI safety and governance work.
Thorsten, in Berlin, Germany, what are the things that worries you the most when people talk about the rise of deepfake? The rise of generative AI that can turn anything into everything. The use or misuse of technologies where a number of countries, such as the United States, has already issued executive orders restraining the use of generative AI.
We observe a certain a shift in what we can call AI governance. I think in the beginning we had this, what you are alluding to, almost the perception of AI as an existential threat. So this is more kind of an escape vision of a dystopian future that AI might take over, but in a negative sense. I think now we have moved more into a risk approach. So we are focusing more on the immediate issues, and we see a convergence over that risk approach globally, whether it's in the United States with the executive order, in the EU with the just recently adopted AI Act, or with a phased approach in China. And in China, we might also expect maybe by 2025 a nationwide AI Act, which kind of combines all those three regions. But that's quite new, because if you look back on the internet revolution, there was not such thing as a risk-based approach when the internet emerged. It was on the contrary. It was just kind of celebrated, a way to have global innovation, global growth, etc., and more collaboration. And we are kind of going back a little bit backwards in this respect. From the industry side, I think there has also been shifts. In the beginning, there was an enthusiasm about AI, even though it's quite hard still to think about the use cases, how to use AI in an industrial context, for example. But that has shifted then to a kind of an AI realism, with all the push towards AI governance models. And today we see a fierce competition about AI, which kind of can undermine or already undermines the very collaboration we need in order to serve society with that new technology, than just that a few companies or a few nation states have the main benefits.
Arthur, Thorsten talked about AI realism, and the underlying theme of that would be a vicious competition, like it or not, between countries. There is also such a thing as AI divide, as many scholars point out. Do you believe in the existence of AI divide? And if so, how would you specify what it is, and how can we collectively resolve it?
There is a big AI divide in the sense that when you look at the large language models that are driving generative AI, most of those are produced in the global north, with the United States and China in the lead. But we also see countries like France, for example, very active in producing large language models. And what this means is that most of this AI is trained on dominant languages like English or Mandarin or French. And on a continent like Africa, where there are hundreds of languages, and for many people their home language is not one of the dominant global languages, AI becomes to some extent inaccessible. We are seeing initiatives, however, among African developers and researchers themselves There's, for example, an initiative called Lelapa AI, which is specifically geared towards developing language models based on African languages. And there's tremendous progress being made. In fact, we are seeing tremendous innovation across Africa, especially in the sense of addressing the needs of the continent. I say in my book about AI that innovation in Silicon Valley is usually based on opportunity. Across the African continent, innovation is based on need. And when you are taking the learnings of 75 years of research into AI and apply them to the specific needs and challenges of the African continent, you see incredible things happen. In South Africa, specifically, there's a company called Aerobotics that uses drones to take video footage of crops and orchards. And then it uses AI to analyze that footage to give a very clear picture of the health of crops or of fruit trees and the like, down to even being able to measure the nutrients in the ground or the moisture in the ground, and then advising the farmers exactly how to respond. So the AI analyzes what is happening on the ground continually, and then allowing the farmer to continually intervene to ensure that they have the best possible crops. And that technology is now being used across Africa.
Mohammed, how would you weigh the promises of AI that it holds for countries like Pakistan versus the risks, such as the global divide between the global north and the global south when it comes to the adoption and application of AI?
I have seen there's a certain AI divide persists between the global north and the south due to the disparities in investment, talent, and regulatory frameworks. The global north countries, they actually lack collaboration, first of all, and they lack investment in attracting top talent. One of the challenges that we faced in Pakistan was brain drain. All these centers across Pakistan had we lost almost 300 people, the skilled people, to the global north. They left the country for, of course, better, incentives. So we need to, the global south countries, they need to come up with frameworks to collaborate with each other to address this divide for the increased investment in AI education, knowledge sharing, and development of inclusive policies that promote equitable access to AI technologies and benefits.
Brian, let me turn to you. China values the opportunity to be an emerging leader in AI, and President Xi Jinping says China is working very aggressively, very hard to make sure that the application of AI is inclusive, is equitable, and is fair. How do you look at China's role in leading the next round of global AI revolution?
The Global AI Governance Initiative was announced by the Chinese president at the Third Belt and Road Forum, and I think it emphasized multilateralism for AI development and governance. In particular, I would emphasize 2 points. One is the central role of the United Nations, in particular supporting discussions to establish an international institution to govern AI. And as a first step, I think China, along with 120 other countries, co-sponsored the first UN General Assembly resolution on AI, which was initiated by the US. I think that really shows that China, the US, and the international community have a shared interest in supporting the use of AI for sustainable development goals. So that's the first point. The second point is that from the Global AI Governance Initiative, it also shows that China would support the interests of developing countries, in particular through advocating for wide access to AI technology and its benefits. China pledged to deepen the push for AI development and governance at a China-Africa Internet Forum in Xiamen. So I think these show that there is common interest between many countries, including the Global South, in promoting the use of AI for the benefit of humanity.
Exactly. Thorsten, in Germany, the United States has stepped up technology sanctions against China, restrictions, export controls when it comes to high-end technologies like semiconductors. Are you worried that the field of AI can be the next field of arms race? At least that is the perception of many U.S. congressmen, people along the Beltway.
I think we're already in the midst of that race. To give some context, we see that not just the United States, but actually that many other large governments are longing for what is called digital sovereignty. So basically to control the policy, also the technology within their jurisdiction, within their country, in order to reap the benefits of that. So that's a pretty legitimate demand to gain sovereignty. Unfortunately, that has crossed the line to protectionism. So it's too much autonomy has crossed the line to protectionism, which in a way is understandable if we look at the previous phase of globalization, where we compromised that, where many nation states compromised that, and we clearly see the limits of the previous phase of globalization. So if we put this in context, we see, okay, there is kind of a legitimate claim for that. But on the other hand, we see kind of a overt, not hidden anymore, coercion and also attempt by the United States to hold the development basically of China. And I think this doesn't do good for China, of course, it doesn't do good for the United States. And actually, when we talk about the Global South, though that's a quite opaque term, so because the Global South is very diverse, right? But actually, this withholds development in many other regions, and it withholds innovation. So I think we need to strike a balance, or those big powers need to strike a balance between the legitimate claim of having the benefits of the digitalization on the one hand, but to keep open and collaborative. I think that's crucial.
Yeah, Thorsten, but do you think this field of AI collaboration is a zero-sum equation, the zero-sum game, whereby the United States has to outcompete China, has to lead China in all fronts? Is that absolutely necessary?
I mean, the short answer is no, but if you look at the past century, and I think when we look at the history, that might have some clues for learning, maybe making no mistakes for the future. The past century was basically around 80 years was a monopoly over telecommunication, the core infrastructure, which enabled the modern industry, industrialization, and it was owned by a few Western countries. And there was no interest in knowledge transfer, technology transfer. Even the ITU, which is over 100 years old, was not supporting any of that. And the only country, basically, a late emerging country, which broke through that innovation hegemony, what you said, was China, actually. It was not through copying. It was through a complex development approach, having its own scientific program, importing, of course, foreign knowledge or foreign technology, and setting up its own industry and setting up market mechanisms to break through that. And I think it's a great achievement, which many countries in the Global South should try to repeat. But the innovation is the only area which has no diminishing returns. You can utilize all your natural resources, but there's a limit. You can increase efficiency, reduce costs, but there's a limit. But with innovation is the only way you can grow. And here, China, for the first time, a country is really challenging the United States. And I think that's a big issue for the US growth model. So it's not so easy also for the United States to say, okay, we will back off and we will become friends. No, it must be clearly understood that this is not an easy game. So for each of the areas of tension, both superpowers and the EU should come together and find a mechanism of maybe reciprocity, but to find a mechanism of collaboration. I think this is the only way forward. You have to consider, with all my admiration and respect how China broke through, it was the United States building up the post-Second World War platform, right? And it has created a lot of wealth. And now we have to understand how the US cannot just give it up. And China needs to also see how it can improve it and how can both sides improve. I think everyone benefits if China is growing healthily and the United States is coming back onto a normal, healthy growth. I think this is what we should aim for.
Arthur, do you have anything to add? Should the AI growth and development be the next field for arms race, or should it be a place where people can truly collaborate?
Mr. Wang, I'm very pleased you asked me that question, because I've been looking at a fascinating graph that shows the proportion of research papers coming out of the United States and China, that shows that in the top 1% of research papers on AI globally, the United States has been leading for many years, for decades in fact. And in the next 2 years, it's expected that China will catch up to the United States. So one might see that as an arms race and a battle for supremacy in AI. But I think a more positive way of looking at it, and a more objective way, is to see it as a dramatic increase in the amount of research and the level of research in AI coming out of China in particular. But the combination of the two, Chinese and American researchers producing so much thinking about where AI is going and coming up with new findings and new models and methods, tells us that AI is going to make an even more dramatic impact on the entire world, on all of humanity in the coming years.
Brian, let me turn to you. What should be the future regulation, legal framework of AI look like when you think about copyright infringement, potentially, deep fake, and also the ethical and moral issues at stake?
First of all, I agree with everyone else that the great powers, along with the international community, have to cooperate and manage the global AI risk, similar to how we have done it for climate change and global pandemics, potentially at a faster pace and potentially at a much more effective manner. So if we look at the pace of AI capabilities, it is really improving at an exponential rate, but our AI safety and regulation measures are really lagging behind. In particular, if we look at the cutting-edge AI systems, they are approaching human-level performance on a range of critical domains. So I think, first of all, we have to agree on a set of red lines in AI safety in advance. For example, when I attended the first Global AI Safety Summit at Bletchley Park, 28 countries, including China, US, and also European Union, agree that we have to manage the risk of large-scale disinformation, potential cyber attacks using AI, and even the use of AI in designing dangerous pathogens. So these are risks that are clearly transnational in nature, and we have to manage them. Another thing that top think tanks and thinkers around the world have been calling for is countries should jointly commit to not using AI for nuclear command and control. That should require human decision-making for launching. This is clearly a major catastrophic risk for all of humanity. So I think the key message is great powers of AI, along with the international community, have to agree on a set of international safety and security standards.
Gentlemen, listen, thank you all so very much. We learned a whole lot about AI. I hope we think that our audience do too. And that will do it for this edition of Global South and AI. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us, and thank you, our viewers, for joining us from around the world. I'm Wang Guan in Beijing. I'll see you again next time.